Hello YouTube, this is Sam Gerrans from God.And. Today is Tuesday 30th of October 2018, and today I'm going to, I've taken a bit of a rest from writing the God protocol, and I'm going to deal with something which has sort of followed me around for a while, so I think I'm going to sort of lay it to rest right now, and it's the question of the Quranic model of the heavens and the earth. And in this presentation, I'm going to make two central arguments. Firstly, that the Quran's presentation of the creation is unambiguously that of a geocentric, flat earth environment. Whether you like it, you don't like it, this is what it says. And secondly, that this view confirms that held in the Hebrew scriptures. Now, I receive a disproportionate amount of attention for the two videos that I made regarding the shape of the earth in the Quran, and also people tend to seize upon, I think it's about 2 or possibly even 3 paragraphs out of the 536,000 word work that I've done, and you know, they sort of get these little snippets and hold them up and say, you see this, this and this, and so this is my version. If you're interested in what I actually think, well, you know, here it is, or here's part of it. Another part is that what you get are people also who, they love what you do. They love, you know, I've got quite a few letters like this. Sam, I really love what you write. I love what you've done with the Quran and your hermeneutical presentation and all this. Oh, a flat earth thing, you see. And I understand, I really do. I mean, just as a quick aside, I mean, I've got notes, but this bit's, I'm extemporizing. Everybody starts off believing what we were told in school. I did, everybody did, and everyone's reaction when you first hear this is, you know, you've got to be mad. Of course that's the case. In the same way as for 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 years, 4,000, 5,000 years, people who had a different, you know, conception of the heavens and earth, you know, they grew up in their environment as well. So believe me, I do understand, but that's not the focus here. I'm not here to convince you of anything, you know, sort of outside of what the Quran itself says. Okay, that's the focus. But I have done my research, and I encourage you to do yours. And if you're willing to put yourself into a position to deprogram yourself, then I recommend, personally, I recommend Eric Dubay's excellent 200 Proofs the Earth is Not a Spinning Ball. If it sounds, you know, wild and crazy to you, welcome to the club. It sounds wild and crazy to everybody when they first hear it. Of course it does. But if you won't do that much, then I really don't care. I can live with it. It doesn't bother me at all. So I'm not here arguing for the flat earth view of creation. That's not what I'm doing. I'm sure I'm going to get tons of comments in the, you know, down below about this, that, and I don't agree with you here and I don't agree with you there and blah, blah, blah. That isn't what I'm saying. Please, for the heart of thinking, that is not what I am arguing here. But I'm sure it will make no difference. I'll get the same amount of vitriol in the comments here as any other video which deals with this topic. What I am doing here is I'm talking about what a particular book, in this case the Qur'an, says, and drawing the attention to those who can, you know, follow this, to the fact that it agrees in general with what a collection of books says, which is variously computed and variously defined as the Bible, and which we will call here for simplicity's sake the Hebrew Bible. And in this model, the earth is an expanse of land spread out. Barring valleys and mountains, it is in the aggregate flat. Beneath the earth are waters, and the earth itself has foundations. The sky is a firm structure, and in biblical parlance it's called the firmament. And this structure has gates. There are waters below the earth, called the great deep, and there are waters above the firmament. Now please don't argue with me on, you know, the science of this. Please follow the argument. I'm telling you what this is, typically the Bible's presentation. Now, some among those who claim the Hebrew Bible try to shoehorn its contents into conformity with the icons and dogma of the modern day cult of scientism. However, many do not, and it is an uncontested fact that the model I'm presenting as that's sort of summarizing the Hebrew Bible was that supported by and espoused by the church for the first 1500 years of its history. So if you are a Christian, or if you are a Jew and you hold to any portion of that which is today called the Bible, and you disagree with what I'm saying, as I say, the fact is that this is historically what was presented as its view. Some people hold it today. Some people try to sort of extricate themselves from the vice of these inescapable conclusions. However, this is fundamentally what this collation of scriptures says. Now, the Qur'an likewise has those who attempt to square the circle, as it were, between it and the often changing dogmas of the Church of Scientism. The fact is that since the heliocentric model was made orthodoxy, the Qur'an has been criticized on the basis of its presentation of an entirely different model. And you won't have to go very far. It's not Sam Gerrans, this crazy guy, standing up and saying the Qur'an believes this. No, the Qur'an has traditionally been criticized for saying the things that I'm now going to say that it says. And the things that I'm saying that it says and will say that it says are not complicated, dark sayings that have to be sort of filtered through some complicated process. These are it's plain reading the text. Now, excuse me, I will summarize the current required dogma, because most people don't know it. They kind of know we live on a ball, or think we live on a ball, but they don't often know the rest of what you have to believe. And again, it's not my assertion, it's just a fact. You have to believe in order to hold to this. And that is that we live on a sphere rotating at 1,000 miles per hour at its equatorial circumference, while hurtling around the sun through the vacuum of space at 67,000 miles per hour. This is all happening now. While the solar system moves at 514,000 miles per hour within its trajectory around the center of a galaxy which itself is moving at 1.3 million miles per hour. The waters of the earth are convex, they're ball-shaped, while the sky is an endless, boundless expanse filled with countless stars, the closest of which is trillions of miles away. And this entire model, the entire model, is based upon, it absolutely stands or falls upon a force, which is called gravity, whose postulates can nowhere be demonstrated. If you don't know, I mean, obviously what they'll say, Neil deGrasse Tyson will sort of drop a microphone and that's enough for the iPhone generation. But that's not gravity. Of course, heavy things fall, light things rise. That proves nothing. We're talking about the assertion that a heavy mass, at a certain level of mass, that thing itself will attract lesser masses to it. That's nowhere demonstrated, nowhere. Even Neil deGrasse Tyson doesn't claim to know what it is. If you don't know who Neil deGrasse Tyson is, he's in the NASA sort of, he's selling NASA to the iPhone generation. He's a PR guy. And so this entire model is based upon a force called gravity, whose postulates can nowhere be demonstrated, and requires that we accept something which militates against our sense, our experience, and which we cannot verify. Now, that's a fair presentation of what you do have to believe, and which most people do believe. If you've been through the state system, the state education system, and the state entertainment system, that's what you believe. It's what I believe. It's what everybody believes. Well, most people. Now, there exist those who try to wrest the Quranic verses into conformity with that, I would call it a religion of scientism. And they push this and they pull that. And such attempts may gain purchase in the mind of someone who is ignorant of the fuller picture. But a plain reading of the relevant verses, when taken together, exposes such a deceit, and it is deceitful. You do get these people. I've read these people too, and they may mean well, but intentions don't mean anything. It's, facts are facts. And the fact is entirely plain. While, if the heliocentric model is false, if that's the case, that does not necessarily mean the Qur'an is true, because both could be false. If the heliocentric model is true, then the Qur'an simply must be false. There is no other logical conclusion. Not logical. Those who traditionally have claimed the Qur'an have for so long been diluting and mixing it with contradictory narratives and religious sources, that they seem to have lost the ability to think organically and holistically. Their minds are cauterized into discrete compartments which do not communicate with each other, and in which mutually exclusive postulates are held at the same time without any obvious tension. And in short, they've become adepts at doublethink. And what's happening now is that there's just a sort of a new extension of that. There's a kind of NASA bolt-on to the hadiths, mind division. Now, you can claim the Qur'an and abjure all that it calls idolatry, or you can genuflect before the priests of NASA and their CGI iconostasis. But you can't do both. Not if you want to be consistent, because their cosmologies and cosmogonies are entirely incompatible. And that's what I'm really identifying here. Now, the arguments that I'm putting forth here are not new. You can find them all over the place. I'm just sort of drawing these verses together. I do believe in the Qur'an. I certainly don't believe in NASA. That's me personally. But I'm just identifying the fact that the model here, that the Qur'an actually identifies or indicates, is incompatible with the postulates, the requisite dogmas that the Church of NASA requires you to believe. And you need to face that. You need to face that reality, because that is reality. Now, the first is that the earth is flat. I know it sounds, crazy, and we understand that, and all the rest of it. Go for a long walk, try and get over it. If you're going to do your research, do your research. If you're not going to do your research, then call everybody names and turn your back on the Qur'an, because that's what you have to do, because this is what it says. It's what it says. And you can embrace the cult of Neil deGrasse Tyson if that pleases you more. But this is what the Qur'an says. This is 2:22. Who made the earth for you a carpet, and the sky a structure, and sent down from the sky water, then brought forth thereby some fruits as provision for you. So make not equals to God, and you know. Now that's 2:22. I'm going to make a PDF, I expect, of this talk. I've got verses and corroborating notes and so on, a few. I'm not going to go through them all here, but I'll probably put this on my site, carpetAnd.com. But just to say that the word here in Arabic means a carpet or a resting place. Now, show me a carpet or a resting place which is anything other than flat. If words have meaning, there's no circularity here. It just doesn't exist. Now, people do obviously argue against one individual verse, but I'm giving you a range, and at the end of this, you're going to have to consider what the sort of the preponderance of evidence here is indicating. So here's the next one at 15:19, and it says, "And the earth we spread out, and cast therein firm mountains, and caused to grow therein every sort of balanced thing." And the verb here, again, which means spread out, and I'm going to list in the PDF all of the instances where it occurs. Everywhere in the Qur'an, it means to spread or to extend of space or time. Madda. That's what it means. It doesn't mean spread round or kind of, make a ball of something. It means spread. That's what it means. And it means that consistently in its Quranic usage. To continue, verse 20:53 says, "And we made the earth for you as a bed." That's 20:53. And again, this word means bed or cradle, and it is a flat space on which one rests. And I list all the verses. I'll read a few more. "We made the earth a bed for you, and placed roads for you therein, that you might be rightly guided." That's 43:10. "And the earth we spread out, and cast therein firm mountains, and we caused to grow therein every sort of delightful kind." That's 57. "And the earth we spread out, how excellent are those who level." That's 51:48. "And God made for you the earth an expanse." that you might travel the broad ways thereof. That's 71:19 through 20. And these are the arguments that have been brought by those against the Qur'an, saying that this is the plain reading of the text. And guess what? They're right. This is the plain reading of the text. Now, at 79:30, we find a verb which is much manipulated by modernizing apologists, those who wish to make the Qur'an confirm or what they assume from the dogmas of scientism. And the verb is daha, which means to spread out or to flatten. And there is only one instance of this root in the Qur'an. In my own translation, which incidentally you may download for free from Qur'anite.com, I render this verse, again it's 79:30, and after that he spread out the earth. And generally other translators render likewise. I'll give you a few. Abdul Yusuf Ali says, and the earth, moreover, hath he extended to a wide expanse. Pickthall says, and after that he spread the earth. Arbery, and the earth after that he spread it out. Shakir, and the earth he expanded it after that. Sarwar, after this he spread out the earth. Hilali and Khan, after that he spread the earth. Malik, after that he spread out the earth. Now, embarrassed by the obvious contradiction between plain sense here and the plain sense of this verb and the requirements of what is called science, some have attempted to associate this verb with ostrich eggs and thereby to link it with that concept of roundness which is found in popular assertions about the shape of the earth. For example, Khalifa renders, he made the earth egg-shaped. But this is sleight of hand distortion. What is true is that there exists in Arabic the word udhiya, which is ostrich nest, which is based on the same root. However, this word derives from the fact that the female ostrich has no nest in the traditional sense, but rather spreads out and flattens a place on the ground where she lays her eggs. And the dictionaries agree. From Lisan al-Arab, he lists the various forms of this word, and it says there, the place in sand where an ostrich lays its eggs. That's because the ostrich spreads out the earth with its feet and lays its eggs there. An ostrich doesn't have a nest. And I'll provide you with a picture of an ostrich nest in a moment, which completely confirms the general tendency of what I'm talking about here. Lane's excellent lexicon says, he spread out, or forth, expanded or extended. Also said of an ostrich, he expanded and made wide with his foot or leg the place where he was about to deposit his eggs. And said of a man, he spread, he made plain, even or smooth. Anyway, to move on. The earth is fixed and unmoving. Yes, we find at 27:61, if he who made the earth a fixed lodging, and made rivers in its midst, and made firm mountains therein, and made a barrier between the two seas, is there any God with God? The truth is most of them know not. I have another verse here at 40:64 through 66. I'm just going to read the first couple of lines. God it is who made for you the earth a fixed lodging and the sky a structure. Now this word structure in Arabic, it means something built. It means a building. It's, the words mean what they mean. Within the biblical view, the earth is a plane encased by what is called the firmament, i.e. a hard structure with waters below and above. At Genesis 1:6 through 8 we read, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. And it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. The fact of waters above and waters below is confirmed at Genesis 7:11. And in the 600th year of Noah's life, in the 2nd month, the 17th day of the month, the same day were all the fountains of the great deep broken up, and the windows of heaven were opened. The Qur'an conveys a similar notion of waters gushing forth or bubbling up from within the earth, possibly as the result of volcanic activity, in the context of the same story, the story of Noah, or Nuh. At 11:40 we read, and when our command had come to pass, and the oven gushed forth. At 23:27 we read, and we instructed him, make thou the ship under our eyes and our instruction. Then when our command comes, and the oven boils up, then load thou therein of each kind 2, and thy household, save him against whom the word has gone forth among them. And speak thou not to me on behalf of those who do wrong. 23:27. And again, the people of Nuh rejected before them. They rejected our servant and said, one possessed, and he was driven away. And he called to his Lord, I am defeated, so help thou. Then opened we the gates of the sky with pouring water. See, this confirms what the Bible says. Gates of the sky with pouring water, and caused the earth to gush forth in springs. So waters below and waters above. And the waters met for a determined purpose. And we carried him upon that of boards and nails that sailed before our eyes as a reward for him who was rejected. And we have left it as a proof. Talking here about the ark. So is there any who will remember? That's 54:9-15. I'm not going to get into the ark here. Use a search engine. Additionally, the Qur'an also mentions gates, i.e. in the sky, on the Day of Judgment. We find at 78:17-19, the day of decision is an appointed time, the day the trumpet is blown and you come in crowds, and the sky is opened and it becomes gates. That's 78:17-19. There's no getting away from these. You see, apologists try to twist one, then they twist another, but eventually you end up with nothing. You see, if everything's just metaphorical, symbolic, then where do you end up? And the Quran is very clear. And if you are going to, it's a bit like with the Hadith, really. If you're going to assume the conclusions of the Hadith religion, then the Quran isn't going to really have an awful lot for you. If we assume the conclusions of the Nasr's religion, again, it's not going to have an awful lot for you. The Quran says that it is from God and we should consider it with care. This is something which seems to elude a lot of people. Anyway, this is what it says. If you don't hate me for it, and don't like me for it. I'm irrelevant to this, but this is what it says. So, these verses, both from the book of Genesis and from the Quran, hold that there is water below and water above, and that the waters are held in place by a fixed, firm structure in which are windows or sluices or gates of some kind. Now, while enjoying a correspondence between themselves, these conceptions are entirely irreconcilable with scientism's iconography or dogmas concerning the nature of what we see above us. Moving on to the next slew of verses. The mountains as ballast, the sky as a roof, and pillars of the earth. Now, having established that the Quranic conception of the earth is like the Bible and presents the earth as overspreading the waters beneath it, it's worth considering the following. 15:19. And the earth we spread out, and cast therein firm mountains, and caused to grow therein every sort of balanced thing. Again at 16:15. And he cast into the earth firm mountains, lest it sway with you. Now the only scenario in which this makes any sense is the Hebrew biblical model of an earth which is resting upon, fundamentally, under which there are waters. I mean, you can get into things like why tides happen and so on. This fits with this model. Anyway, I'm going to leave those sorts of subjects for now, but this is the model which the Qur'an describes. Like it or dislike it, but deal with the implications of it, because this is what it says. However you decide that question for yourself. Moving on, 21, 31 through 32. And we made in the earth firm mountains, lest it sway with them. And we placed therein mountain passes as ways that they might be rightly guided. And we made the sky a roof, protected, and they are disinclined towards its proofs. 21, 31 through 32. Ain't that the truth? Next, 31:10. And he created the heavens without pillars that you can see. And he cast into the earth firm mountains, lest it sway with you. And he spread therein every sort of creature, and we sent down water from the sky, and caused to grow therein every sort of noble kind. 31:10. Thus the purpose, or at least an additional effect, of the mountains is that the earth not sway with us. It's stable, it's not moving, it's fixed. This makes sense in the biblical conception of the earth as a stationary and supported by a body of water, and none whatever if we live on a ball spinning wildly at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator. Again, I'm not telling you what you should believe, I'm not telling you what you should do, I'm telling you what the Qur'an says. And whilst you will find those who try to twist this little bit and that little bit, this is the plain reading, and there is no real escape from this. Now I'm going to move on to the sky. We've touched on in the presentation above, in the Qur'an, of the sky as a roof above us, and we find confirmation of this following, and this is 79:27 through 29, and I'll put as many of these verses as YouTube will allow into the drop down below. Are you harder in creation or the sky? He built it and raised the ceiling thereof, and fashioned it, and made dark its night, and brought forth its day. There's no getting away from this. It's what it says. Now the Qur'an speaks in many places of the sky as something hard and firm, something which will crack on the day of judgment. Now, I've translated the Qur'an. These verbs, these are not extraneous, derivative meanings. These are plain meanings, and used consistently across the Qur'an in this plain sense. So let's start. 82:1 says, when the sky cracks, only something which is fixed and firm and hard is capable of cracking. 67:3, who created 7 heavens in layers. Thou seest no disharmony in the creation of the Almighty. So look thou again, seest thou any rifts? Again, only something which is firm and fixed and solid can have a rift. Endless, boundless space going on forever. It's impossible for it to have a rift. It simply is. 73:18. So how will you be in prudent fear if you deny of a day which will make the children white-haired, wherein the sky will crack open? His promise will be fulfilled. 73:18. Again, and we have expounded for men in this Qur'an every sort of example, but most men refuse save denial. And they say, we will not believe thee until thou cause a spring to gush forth from the earth for us, or there be for thee a garden of date palms and grapes, and thou cause rivers to gush forth therein abundantly, or thou cause the sky to fall, as thou hast claimed, upon us in pieces, or thou bring God and the angels as surety. 17:89 through 92. Pieces. Now, of course, you could take this little verse and say, oh, well, this means a meteorite shower, and this little bit here, and maybe. But the preponderance of evidence, looking at it across and this is consistent, and there are other verses which back this up. I didn't bring them all, but there are more. This is the model the Qur'an presents. It's entirely consonant with the Hebrew Bible's presentation, and it's mutually exclusive from the NASA sort of Neil deGrasse Tyson presentation of. Okay, again, on the Day of Judgment, this is 20 105 through 107. And they ask thee about the mountains. Say thou, my Lord will scatter them utterly, and leave them a level plain, wherein thou wilt see neither deviation nor bend. It's not possible on a ball. It just isn't. Now I'm going to sort of wrap this up. So I'm going to leave with the question of what's beyond. There are lots of unknowns, and I'm not claiming to know. I'm not saying that I know what I'm about to say. I'm saying that this is what the Qur'an says. I'm simply presenting what a book says. I hope you can kind of stick with this central thing. I have no idea what is beyond, and so far as I know, nobody knows. But this is what the Qur'an says. You may take it or leave it, and we find it at 65:12. God is he who created 7 heavens, and of the earth their like. Now, if there are 7 heavens, it's not a crazy idea that it's saying here that perhaps there are 7 earths. The command descending between them, that you might know that God is powerful over all things, and that God has encompassed all things in knowledge. Again, I'm not offering this as scientific proof. I'm presenting what a book says, and this is what it says. These are not distortions of the text. The words that I've emphasized or sort of commented upon are rendered naturally and honestly. The plain case is that the enlightened view of the universe, in that view, these verses make no sense, since they describe an entirely different model. And those who try to twist these verses, the verses that I've just read, into conformity with the Copernican NASA version of reality are misrepresenting the words on the page of the Qur'an. The Qur'an agrees in general terms with the Hebrew Bible, although it offers information in addition to that which I at least could find within it. Make of that what you will. That's all for now. If you're listening on YouTube, you can download my full translation of the Qur'an free using the button in the top right hand corner, or buy the hard copy there at 10% less than on Amazon. I also encourage you to sign up for the Qur'anite Plus newsletter on the site to get occasional micro updates. You can download the audio from my YouTube videos to your mobile device using the links in the drop down below. I recommend meetquranites.com to connect with other Qur'an alone believers. Like if you like, comment if you have something constructive to say, and subscribe to get more each week. And use the link in the drop down below to donate if you would like to help me keep doing this. And remember, this life is short, eternity is long. If you want good trees, plant good seeds.